Yo, Kaspa family, we're going to be looking at Igra Labs and breaking that down for you because they released some new information and it's definitely worth looking into. Before that, let's take a look real briefly about the price of Kaspa. So just now, from Sunday now to Monday, we saw a nice little pump, okay? Kaspa and these altcoins, they didn't rise as much. This narrative is still centered around Bitcoin, but this is very good to see, and this is exactly what I was looking for with Bitcoin, especially on the daily time frame. I wanted to see this breakout, and here it is, confirmation of the breakout. These the micro time frame, these indicators are transitioning from this this bearish sort of downtrend, breaking the linear, progression of, where crypto has been headed, and that it's been in a bit of a downtrend, but now it's right back up. And we see that not just with Bitcoin, but also, of course, Ethereum and all that. It also, rose up there on the daily. Not too much though. So there's still lots of room for altcoins to grow, especially Kaspa. Okay, this is a prime time to load up while you still can at an extreme discount. Definitely do believe this is the low for Kaspa. Do I think it can go lower? Honestly, no. We see the double bottom down here at 5 cents. We see a double bottom here at 8 cents, and this higher low at this around 8.3, 8.4 cent range on the it hits these low Bollinger Bands, and it found support. That's good to see, and we're rising. It continues to rise. It's going to have to it's going to hit the 10-cent mark. What is it going to do from there? It's probably going to be volatile. We're going to have to see. But once it hits it, it's very bullish because it just keeps powering the uptrend, the macro uptrend, and this type of reversal. It's more so like a confirmation of the reversal, the macro reversal. So we're gonna see that. The fact that Bitcoin's powering up, powering through. We see also with respect to the global M2. So we took a look at this yesterday, and it was the same thing. It still hasn't gotten updated, but like this global M2 is rising up, okay, and Bitcoin is lagging behind. That's just how it works. It's a trend that it follows. So this M2 week, the 10-week lead, it's following pretty accurately, okay. And there's a lot of different delays that you can look at, like 90 days, 10 weeks, all these different all the different delays, but they all work very similar in the fact that when there's more money out there, more liquidity, that comes to Bitcoin in the end. So we also see with gold consolidating at a very healthy range. It's be very strong. It's hard money, just like Bitcoin, just like Kaspa, like proof of work, hard money, mined. It's a commodity. Now we look at, like, for example, the dollar. It's not been doing so hot. Gonna be honest. Who knows what's going to go down with the dollar? It's just so much literal manipulation from the Feds. That's how the dollar works. But it's not looking very hot. It's not looking very good because these banks, the dollar, fiat currencies, even the yuan, the Chinese currency, these systems are at a critical point. They are at a breaking point, okay? We're going to see this breaking point. We're going to see when it happens and how bad it gets, okay? We've seen banks go under, some big banks. SFB was a large one. SFB, I think? Yeah, SVB, so the Silicon Valley Bank in 2023. How recent? Now, this is the third largest bank failure since 2008 collapse of the financial crisis, the bank run. Okay, a bank run. That's what's happening currently in the world, especially in China and other countries. People, like, these banks have, like, you think they have a one-to-one reserves, like, what we hope to see with crypto exchanges, but no, they have like 10% they have 10 cents to the dollar in these banks. Now, that's a huge problem when you actually want to withdraw money, and it's an even larger problem when that money is being sent out as a loan. So it's basically debt, and this debt could be very bad debt. The loan could be going bad, okay, and these loans are going bad with failing real estate, as in, like, this real estate market. It's a bubble, it's a peak. So when they have these bad loans, like for example with the real estate, they can't get their money back. There isn't that return on initial capital. Like if you can't pay back, there's not people buying up these like ghost cities in China, for example. Same deal in the U.S. Like these people buy such property, and the people that do hold such huge investment properties, like they can't even earn money on it because of the interest rates are very high, and they need that interest rate to come down in order to be able to borrow money at a cheaper price. Global debt, okay? I mean, it is not a place that's not affected, and we see again United States, China, as you know, this is an outdated chart as well. So the debt has even gotten much worse since then. You know, global markets, they're in for a ride while crypto is in for a moonshot. That's how it's going to be set up as the money printer goes brr. All right, so let's take a look at Igra Labs, all right? Let's take a look at what they have developed and what they're developing. And I'll definitely make another video on it, maybe even just like a video focused just on Igra as I get more information, you know, as more things can release. But it's looking real good. Igra Labs, so, you know, we got Casplex layer 2 and you got Igra Labs layer 2. Both are well, no, they want to make it ZK. They won't be ZK at the start. However, they will be EVM compatible. Okay, so this is, and I was asked some questions, and Igra Labs will also down the road aim to be compatible with other virtual machines. You know, it's going to be a lot of work to do that, but they want to do it, and that's great, and they could do it. So to be compatible, for example, with the Solana VM, it will bring access to a lot of builders from Solana and from other places. Like there's a lot of builders in the crypto space, so being able to have high interoperability, I think I said that word right, is very good for Kaspa initial adoption. What it could do, because these layer 2s, Igra, Casplex, they are based rollups, meaning that they aren't going to be running their own sequencer. They won't be ordering the transaction for Kaspa. No, they're going to be they'll be using Kaspa's block DAG for the sequencing and for the ordering and also for the settlement. So we're going to have to see. That's the question I have for Igra Labs is initially right off the bat, are they going to be using Kaspa for the settlement layer? I believe so, but they want to also be able to, you know, I don't know when, maybe down the line, to be able to provide settlement on other layer 1s. Now this is a great perk because it would allow compatibility across blockchains. You would be able to move and transfer funds across blockchains with ease. Now that's incredible, and there's a lot of application for that. Is it like you know, again, looking back, looking at this compared to something that's very native Kaspa, something that's focused just on Kaspa, like a Sparkle layer 1.5, something like that, it would be more efficient, perhaps even more decentralized. But something like this, when you settle across other chains, I mean, something I was making note here is that you're going to have to be using that other blockchain, the other layer 1, for that as the settlement. It'll be slower, more costly. You'll have basically the drawbacks of the other layer 1s when you use them as a settlement layer. But using them as a settlement layer is how you can access and cross and move funds across blockchains. That's how you would have to do it. So this interoperability is a great perk, you know, option across chains. So it does have a little drawback that you're going to have to rely on the other chain now. You're moving off of Kaspa, but still that's crypto, okay? In order for crypto to really succeed, especially at the start and even down the line, you're going to need to be able to move funds across blockchains. So something like for Bitcoin, Kaspa being, even for Igra Labs, to be a layer 2 solution, using Kaspa technology to scale Bitcoin, that is epic, okay? Epic. Really, really epic. That's something that Kaspa is going to be an application for Kaspa, especially as more people realize the benefits of Kaspa. And, you know, as a proof of work with the same Nakamoto consensus security model, you know, retaining that same consensus, that's huge. It's literally the security of Bitcoin with much lower confirmation times for a transaction. And these confirmation times you have to wait in order to be secure. Okay? You wait less confirmation times on Kaspa to be the same security, to have the same security. Wait more confirmations on Kaspa to even be even more secure than Bitcoin, a transaction through Bitcoin. Pretty crazy. Yeah. And Ethereum, having, cross-chain assets from moving from Ethereum to Kaspa or Kaspa to Ethereum would be pretty cool. That's something Igra Labs is going to eventually, look to do. We'll see when they can implement it. And this is a question again. What's the settlement going to be on at the start? Looks like it might be, Kaspa at the first. That makes sense. I really do hope it'd be Kaspa at the start, but we're gonna have to see because it seems like they really are trying to push for, they're trying to put their foot in the door into like the Ethereum crypto space. It seems like they're really trying to target Ethereum. And that's great. I mean, that's wonderful, especially because Kaspa literally is a solution for Ethereum. It could be used that way. Kaspa's layer twos, like for example, Kasplex or Igra Labs, is literally a solution for Ethereum with a ZK based rollups. That's what Ethereum has been trying to implement, but cannot because of its inefficiencies, because it cannot scale. The native layer Ethereum cannot scale to allow based rollups to operate. Now Kaspa can do that. So now we could see these L2s from Kaspa be able to work with Ethereum. Again, this it's like how other L2s work. Like how Base is an L2 for Ethereum. Arbitrum is an L2 for Ethereum. Polygon is an L2 for Ethereum. These are all L2s. They're all trying to be efficient, have high scalability, but they all have centralization problems. Huge centralization problems. They have to sequence their own transactions. They have to keep transactions off chain and batch them like all together, maybe like a week later to Ethereum. Like that's a huge, not just like a decentralization issue, but it's a risk factor, and it's a scaling issue because they have to batch all of the transactions together because of high gas fees they would have otherwise. And it would make the network so congested. Kaspa doesn't have that issue. So we're going to see Kaspa layer twos and Kaspa itself start inching its way to the top 5, in my opinion. It's very much going to compete with Ethereum and with other Ethereum L2s without any doubt, long term. So short term, it's going to be a wild volatility ride, but we're in for it because we understand the long-term vision. And what other questions are there? So, they're going to have their Igra token. That's going to be, they say it's not planned for fees, but I mean, they're going to be using that to incentivize their node operators. For running a node, you're going to get rewarded with Igra tokens. They're going to also have a DAO to be used for, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what they want to use their DAO for, but that's cool. Try to keep the structure of maybe Igra Labs more decentralized. Maybe try to keep the development and just how the leadership perhaps is run. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what their DAO is all about. But DAOs are kind of cool if they're run correctly. It takes a lot of work to run a DAO, and you have to have a lot of participation. So we'll see how it runs, how it works. But there's a lot of potential, to use even Ethereum if they want to allow the option to have an Ethereum settlement. It'll be slower, it'll be more costly, but to give an option to have Ethereum settlement and to have Kaspa settlement, I think will be very crucial. I really do hope they have settlement on Kaspa, or else I'll be very upset. They get sequenced very quickly on Kaspa, but we need that ultimate final settlement of a transaction on Kaspa. Kaspa has the greatest security fundamentally of every single crypto in existence. Like it could only compare to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the only comparison of this security, of this Nakamoto consensus of 51% Byzantine fault tolerance. That's what Kaspa has as well. And it doesn't need to wait as long of a confirmation time for a transaction to reach that security. So we're gonna, we'll see, and it's very interesting. You take a look at the documentation here at Igra, and some great stuff they have here. Node evolution, future ZK integration will enable lightweight clients, so that's good. Lightweight nodes are important for decentralization to allow more normal like home computers or home setups to run a node. It's very important. Let's also take a look real quick at their test net. So their test net is scheduled to be launched in April. Wait, sorry, not April. July. We are in June. So in a month, their test net will be there, and it says incentivized. So we'll see exactly what that means. Maybe they're going to give an allocation of their Igra token to people in the test net. That's what I would assume to have. They're gonna have allocations set, which kind of stinks because they're not gonna run their. First off, they're having a token. Second off, it's not going to be fair launched. Just by the looks of it, how they're setting things up. So, Casplex doesn't have a token, and they don't need a token. So they want things to operate very similar to how Kaspa has been run, focusing on Kaspa, using Kaspa as for fees. Well, they're going to have the wrapped Kaspa for fees until the ZK gets implemented for much more smooth, integration across layers. But to have wrapped Kaspa for fees is great. And even like Igra Labs will have their own wrapped Kaspa for fees as well. But I mean, like, so yeah, but like these people Eager Labs is going to have their token to pay, try to incentivize people to run a node. Now, Casplex is not going to have that. It's not going to be paying people to incentivize running a node. And I honestly think that's for the better, because why do you need to incentivize nodes? I mean, there's a plus, there's a benefit and disadvantage. Like there's two sides to it, because if you incentivize running nodes, literally one person could run so many nodes. They could act as 500 nodes and just run it all, like, without much of an issue. I mean, well, we'll see what the requirement costs for the hardware. I don't know. We'll have to see how it can be run, but then they're going to get those rewards, and that's kind of like, a bad actor, I guess, because if it's just one person running all these nodes, and if that it's not actually as decentralized as you want it to be, it's kind of like the numbers are just up, and that represents like a single entity. It doesn't represent actually like 500 decentralized nodes. It's just like basically a conglomerate of just one giant node. And you won't see that in the network because because these nodes are peer-to-peer. So basically, to incentivize nodes, is it actually necessary, or do you go the more organic route where you would run a node if you are a builder in the space? If you have your own D app, your application on Kaspa, on L2, it would be in your best interest to run a node, because you want to get that. You want to really make sure that all that information, all that data on the block DAG is true. It's confirmed. There's no delay or very minimal, very low latency. So it would be in your best interest to confirm for yourself, to verify, not to trust the block DAG from other nodes, to run your own node. That's the most decentralized and organic route. So I like that Caspex is taking it. Eager Labs is taking that company route. They are Casplex is non-profit. I guess Eager Labs is perhaps like for profit. We're gonna see how their token launch is. Maybe they're gonna have a pre-sale. Who knows? Honestly, I think that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna have like a allocation set for the team, allocation set for private investors, allocation set for VCs, allocation set for testnet incentives, set for mainnet incentives. It looks like there's going to be a mainnet incentivized launch. So there's going to be a lot of allocations. And we all know what happens with token allocations is that once these tokens get into the open market, we'll see when the release schedule is, if they're going to be locked up or not. But basically, when these tokens get into the market, it introduces sell pressure. So if you don't have people buying those tokens that are being sold on the market, then that's going to just slowly, gradually bleed the the price of the asset of the token. And that's why we see a lot of VC coins, a lot of different useless technology too. Their charts are terrible because first off, they have so much pre-allocated funds that the team just keeps selling and selling. Or second off, the technology is just trash. So if you don't have the reason for people to keep buying, then the sell pressure from the team and internal investors and VCs will just keep dumping on the open market, and no one's going to be buying that. So it's going to be endless dumps. But is that going to happen with Igra? No, I don't believe so. I mean, there's definitely a great value that they're adding to Kaspa as a layer two, as a based, especially when they release ZK, as a ZK based roll up. That's a great value for Kaspa. Is it the end game for Kaspa? No, but it is a great start for Kaspa initial adoption across and inside the crypto bubble. That's what the Igra is. That's what Casplex is. So that's why they're gonna have good value, especially at the start. We'll see how they develop. Maybe Casplex or maybe even Igra Labs becomes a layer two solution for Bitcoin. For Bitcoin to be able to run on Caspa's block DAG for sequencing the transactions. You just never know how and where Kaspa could end up going, but it's pretty clear that long term it's going to be everywhere, and it's going to be needing these L2s, going to be needing these builders to put Kaspa to the forefront. To make it a programmable layer, you're going to need L2s. You're going to need these layers to be able to run all this different cool stuff, because all builders are here, and I saw there was someone in the community, they were even building like a peer-to-peer messaging, encrypted messaging app using just Caspa. You see, that's epic, because some people would launch a token with that, but this guy, he's building it just with Caspa, using Caspa as the fees. That's how it should be done. And you see things like using a point of sales system. They have their own token. Why do you need your own token for that? Just use Caspa. Build a point of sale system. Maybe take a small percent fee, very, very small, in Caspa, and that's it. You don't need your own token. So why people that are launching their own tokens are trying to then you look at the people launching their own tokens, and you see the token, how they're set up, and you see that, oh, there's a whole team wallet. There's all these pre-allocations, and then it clicks. Oh, these people just want, whether they want a quick buck or they want a guaranteed large amount of profit as like a team member or something. That's what a lot of people are in for. Okay, they're in for that traditional model of running like a company, running business, and that's it's sad to see, especially inside Caspa being such a fair launched, incredibly decentralized project. It's a rarity to have something fair launched, even though it seemed like Caspa was setting that as a trend with the meme coins. All the top ones have been fair launched. There was Goad was pre-sale, or had a pre-sale. These ones with pre-sale, they get a little sketchy, but they have to prove to the community that they really are in it for the best interest of the community. That's something these people that these projects that have these token allocations, they really are going to need to prove themselves that what they are offering is of great value and that they have the best interest of the community at heart. So that's why Igra Labs, they're going to be, their DAO that they're going to release for their token, it's going to be very important, and we're going to have to make sure they they do it right, because otherwise these pre-allocations, it may end up biting it in the end. So we're going to have to see how it works out. Bitcoin grade security. That's right. I feel like, I've been saying that term quite a lot. Unlocking KAS, utility, trustlessly bridging it, fairness and resistance to front running. That is that MEV resistance. Node democratization. Yes. ZK based pruning is live. More nodes, no gatekeepers. Do they mention incentivizing nodes? Not sure. Doesn't look like it. They didn't doesn't seem like they said it here, but I mean I heard them in other interviews mentioning it. Oh, here we go. We aim to release and test DAO smart contracts right from the Genesis block. Voting on protocol parameters, fees, and token allocations will be handled by the Igra DAO. All right, that's pretty cool. I like that. So there we go. We have now confirmation that they're going to have token allocations. Probably team wallets, probably VC wallets, and all that stuff. So we're going to have to see, how this works. No hidden distribution behind curtains. Token holders will gradually gain control over protocol parameters, fees, and treasury. Gradually. What does that mean? But no, that's better than nothing, I guess. The thing is, too, it's like when you have this DAO, the people that you have power in the DAO by owning these tokens. So how are you going to own these tokens at the start? It's going to be very interesting. Is it going to be the the nodes, the people that run nodes? Is that the only way you're going to be able to get tokens at the start? So then you're going to be able to then participate in the DAO and then set vote on token allocations or not. We're gonna have to see. But I do like the fact that they mentioned this DAO because it's the first time I've seen them. I think this is the first time mentioning it. Pretty cool. I like it. ZK will let us shrink known requirements, unlock advanced features like cross-chain smart contract calls. Pretty nice. As well as cross-chain. I do hope they also mean cross-layer, like across different layer 2s. I would imagine so. But something I'd also like to get clarified. Our EVM execution client is ready. Once opcodes land, ZK opcodes land on Kaspa, we will plug them in and scale. Nice. Excited. Very excited. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So there we go with Igra Labs doing some work. Yeah, some great work. Architecture and fault tolerant. Yeah, so also something I'd be interested to see is how they're going to combat reorganizations on the block DAG. So, Casplex mentioned it. Then Casplex will have a real-time monitoring system. I don't know what. So real-time system to combat that. I wonder what Igra Labs will be doing in order to safeguard against a reorganization of the tip of the block DAG. I think it's a very rare event, but it could happen with Caspa, and if it does happen, they need to be able to accommodate such a change, a very small change, and I think it could be done within within a second. So I don't think it's going to be affecting users, but it's all interesting things that need to be kept in mind before the launch, or maybe we'll see how it works during testnet. Near finality, it's great. Everything looks really good. I still have some questions though, and I'll definitely make another video um, once I have the information on that, or maybe even do an interview with these guys because maybe do the interview after the testnet once we see things how it's working. Maybe do a little walkthrough of the testnet, but yeah, it'll definitely look like they're on the right track, and that's awesome. It's going to take a little more time than Casplex by the looks of it. Casplex is already in testnet. My guess is the Casplex mainnet layer 2 is going to release this summer, at least by the end of the summer is my guess. I mean, I think it could take as early as the next 2 weeks or next month, but For Igra, it's going to be the end of 2025, Q4. So we'll see exactly what Q4 means. Is it the last day of 2025? Is it January 1st, 2026? We're going to have to see. Because Q4 is, quarters. There's a 3 months time frame where that launch can be. So we'll see. But that's awesome that they have a roadmap, and it seems like they're busy. Their heads down, building. Love to see it. Kaspa's doing work, and price action also doing great. Definitely, incredible opportunity to buy at these such a low price. Because you look at just my past video, I was going into great topics, great indicators across the various markets, and these total, yeah, just so undervalued, these altcoins. I mean, Kaspa is not even an altcoin, but like you look at this price comparative, like to the rest of where it's been in the past basically 2 years. Um, and it's such a low value. Like it went down to this 5 cent mark. I can't even believe it went down this low. The fact that it went down there twice, bruh, that's so awesome, because this was such a boiling point for Kaspa. Everyone was really trying to hope it came down one more time, but it didn't, and it exploded. I feel like a lot of big buyers, perhaps those early institutions, perhaps you never know, but these are some big buys that powered this ride, this rocket. We're gonna see these rockets more often, with more institutions, more banks, more big players, $100 million investment, adding to the treasury of a state or of a company or a government. These big giant $100 million plus purchases will just send Kaspa to multi billions. Like that, we're gonna see that as a norm. You see that currently with Ethereum, Bitcoin, XRP, even Solana. Like these huge, massive purchases, or yeah, basically for treasuries of companies, or to integrate it with certain technology investments. Yeah, but none of this has entered Kaspa yet. If it has, it's been very little. I mean, we see some big spikes from here, but honestly, institutions have very, very little exposure to Kaspa, in my opinion. Besides wallet number two, that's probably our first, and it is our largest holder, and it will be our probably like the largest that Kaspa will ever see, because once the price starts going up, it's going to be so much harder for institutions to buy at a cheap price. They're going to have to buy so much more. It's going to cost so much more money. So I really do believe this is the start of the end game. We're going to see Kaspa be explosive very, very soon. Hopefully by the end of the summer, things will look great for crypto and the rest of the altcoins, Bitcoin as well. Its power, it's now almost hitting 108K. This is great. Just yesterday I was saying from here, I got my Patreon and all that. So definitely give it a look if you actually want real time, news and my thoughts. Because I was calling this stuff. I was calling, once Bitcoin drops down to 100K, that's going to be a great buying opportunity for Kaspa. And Kaspa, I was thinking that if Bitcoin dropped down to 100K, and it dropped down to like 100.3K, I was like thinking, all right, Kaspa could maybe drop down to, who knows, maybe 5 cents, 6 cents, 7 cents. And it didn't. Kaspa held strong at 8 cents. Huge, very bullish for that it held up so well. And boom. And once I called this out, I was like, all right, it's going to bounce back up. And this is a great purchasing opportunity. Great little bear trap. And boom, there we go. I was not expecting such a fast reversal, though. And that just simply confirmed how strong the buy pressure is across crypto and Bitcoin. And I told my people that don't be selling now. We're going to be holding, and this momentum is going to take us higher. And here we go. From yesterday, I was saying, Bitcoin has a lot of room to reach and retest 110, 111K. And now we see that breakout. We break out from the micro time frame, 4 hours. The hourly chart is very promising. Very promising. You look at down to the hourly charts, even the 4 hour, and you see the trend is moving up. And you look across all these different hours, and you just start to get like a better picture of where things are headed. you have to just keep it all together, keep it all in mind. A solid floor, in my opinion. Like the sell pressure has stopped. This was the massive sell, and now we're seeing this consolidation happening, and we're going to see this turnaround, a macro turnaround, and we already see that with Bitcoin. We already see that with some of these other coins, but it's definitely good to see that Bitcoin is powering upward because M2, global M2 is also doing the same. So then we see Bitcoin following, and then we're going to see altcoins following shortly after that. Everything's looking real good. So hold on to your bags, buy it up, get these dips while you still can. This flash discount. Get yourself a tangent. If you haven't already, 20% off. Discount code SCAPE. Peace out.